Friday Night Sport with Thaakir. Friday Night Sport with Thaakir. Friday Night Sport with Thaakir.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Friday Night Sports Talk with myself, Thaakir Dawood. It's been quite a technological mess behind the scenes, but alhamdulillah, we're here and we're here to talk all things football, all things sports. Yep, Liverpool make history by lifting the Premier League title after 30 years. And yeah, the Reds waited 30 years and 27 days to lift this title. James Milner becomes one of the few players to lift the Premier League title with two clubs, Man City being the first one and Liverpool being the latest. In other news, the situation at the bottom of the log is rather tight, with Villa at 17th, 34 points with a goal difference of -26, and Watford are 18th with 34 points, a goal difference of -27, and Bournemouth 19th with 31 points and a goal difference of -27. On the final day, Villa go to West Ham, Watford are at Arsenal, and Bournemouth to go to Everton. Well, who's going to stay up in the Premier League? Let's wait until the final day. In rugby news, we're going to be joined by our correspondent, Mubeen Mohammed, who will be giving us an update on the pros and cons of South Africa going over to play in Europe, if that does happen. Yuri Ru obviously making it quite clear to us that South Africa will not be playing in Europe in 2021, as Sanzar has not agreed to a agreement of obviously kicking South Africa out of the Super Rugby, as reported in New Zealand and Australia over the past weekend. So yeah, there you've got it. You've heard it from Yuri himself, the CEO of SA Rugby. South Africa will be playing in the Super Rugby come 2021. And now we'll be crossing over to Mubeen Mohammed in just a bit. Mubeen, assalamu alaikum. Thank you for joining me once again. Just quickly, very briefly, let's run through this. Mubeen, it's quite a mess in the media this week. South Africa not knowing if they're coming or going. However, we've been led by leadership. Yuri Ru, who's made it quite obvious. He's been quite vocal, saying South Africa will be playing rugby in the Southern Hemisphere come 2021. Mubeen, what's your thoughts on that?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to all the listeners of Salam Media. Yes, with regards to SA Rugby, if they're moving north or not, I think that South Africa should stay in the Sanzar in Southern Hemisphere. So yeah, that's my thoughts going into that. I think we should stay.
Yeah, continue.
Okay, no, I'll say I've got a whole lot of reasons why we should actually stay in there. Going on as the pros and cons, you know, I feel that if South Africa leaves, the standard of rugby will drop, you know, in South Africa, because every single player or rugby guy who grows up in South Africa, his dream is always to play the All Blacks, because, you know, the rivalry between the All Blacks and the Springboks is unmatched in the world. It's the old foe against each other all the time. It's the two main rivals. It's like your cricket. You would give it a difference. You would say it's like the Ashes, you know, where South Africa or New Zealand's like watching England versus Australia in the cricket, or in soccer perhaps Germany and Holland, or Argentina and Brazil. So it's one of those biggest rivals in the world in terms of rugby union. So South Africa, I don't think will want to leave Sanzar. And then obviously we all know that Africa's been with Sanzar for 25 years. That's a very long time. In fact, it's more than 25 years if we include the time before 1995, the Super 10 as well. So, I mean, this is a long process that's been with Sanzar. So, it would be very foolish, in my opinion, if we actually leave and go up north.
Mubeen, can I just come in there quickly? We've been chatting rather a lot of emotion, but if we talk facts and we talk finances, things that will actually impact the game and the players, let's put emotion aside for a bit. Mubeen, do you think that this will make financial sense if South Africa stays in the Southern Hemisphere? A lot of reports have been that South Africa should go up north because there'll be more money and there'll be better competition, but knowing that there's a Champions Cup to play for after the teams qualify for the Champions Cup by the Pro 18, if that will be. Financial sense, traveling, I mean, it's a lot easier to travel up north than to travel over to New Zealand halfway across the world.
No, definitely, Thaakir. I think, look, just like you said, putting emotions aside, definitely the travel zones and the money making up north will be much better for South Africa. But then again, if you look at SA Rugby and Super Sport, remember South Africa and Super Sport has been the main generators of money for Super Rugby. People don't know that. I mean, the revenue coming in from Super Sport, the broadcasting rights specifically, and the amount of money that SA Rugby puts into Super Rugby has been great. So, I mean, New Zealand and Australia have really relied on South Africa in terms of finance over there. And obviously, like we've spoken off air as well many times, the crowd attendances as well. I mean, South Africa has way more people attending matches. Perhaps not in the last 2 or 3 years, but we're looking at the whole 25 years. South Africa's had massive attendances at their matches, So that's always brought the financial part also, it's been very stable with regards to that. Yes, Thaakir, if we do go north, there won't be any negatives towards Africa. I think, like I said, the main thing is I still feel, in my personal feeling, I think that Africa's standard of rugby will drop because we know that Super Rugby, and specifically playing against New Zealand regularly and Australia and Argentina, it just lifts our game all the time up. Where perhaps if we go to the Northern Hemisphere, we could see a bit of a conservative, slow rugby. And I don't think we want to see that rugby week in, week out, you know what I mean, on those cold nights where it's just 10-man rugby. It's a bit of stump car, like we say, stump car rugby, forwards rugby all the time. And it's a bit of a kicking contest. So I think most people in South Africa will say, let's stay in the Southern Hemisphere. Let's continue with Super Rugby. And Brother Thaakir, we have seen before and heard before about the format going back to the old format of Super Rugby next year, which is the Super 14, where each side plays each other once. So essentially, it'll be strength with the strength. And then obviously from there, semi-finals, and then into a final. It's pretty much like the old format, like 2011. So if we see that format next year, then I can't see us leaving Sanzor. I would say the best thing would be to stay in Sanzor.
And I think we'll just have to wait and hear what the administrators do have to say with regards to that. But thank you so much for your insight this evening, Mubeen. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure the listeners of Salam Media are all privileged to have a guy like you sharing your insights on our platform. Shukran so much, and assalamu alaikum. Have a good weekend.
Walaikum salam. It's always a pleasure, Brother Thaakir. And just the last before I leave, I'd like to say is that I'm just going to make 2 predictions. I think the Crusaders beat the Hurricanes by 10 points on Saturday. And then obviously the Blues and Chiefs game, I think that's going to be a tight game. I think the Blues will win that game by 3 points. So Crusaders by 10 and Blues by 3. See you,
well, it's going to be a quite interesting weekend of rugby. Thank you, Mubeen, for your insights. We do know the Super Rugby tour is going on this weekend, and we have the Australian version of the Super Rugby called Super Rugby Australia taking place over the weekend. Some interesting games. Stay up to date with them and tell us your thoughts on that. Well, we're going to cross over quickly to a quick ad break, take a break, and then we'll be back with Jack Monarch giving us a bit of his love affair from Lens to Lords. Let's hear what he has to say all about that after the break.